Think retiring at 58 is just for the ultra wealthy? It's not. In fact, for smart strategic savers, it might be the best financial decision that you ever make. Now, I've been a retirement planner for nearly 20 years. I was named the #2 independent advisor by Investopedia. But more importantly, I've helped hundreds of people who thought early retirement was out of reach. They assumed that they would need millions more or a decade longer in the workforce. But once we crunched the numbers and built the right plan, retiring at 58 wasn't just possible, it became the clear next step. And today, I'll show you why it might be closer than you think and how to do it without gambling your future. Here's something that might surprise you. For households earning $100,000 or more, the average target retirement age is not 65, it's 58. That's right, according to a recent NerdWallet survey, many Americans with solid but not extraordinary incomes are aiming to retire well before the traditional age. In other words, we're not talking about lottery winners or tech billionaires here. We're talking about teachers, engineers, small business owners, and dual income couples who have made thoughtful, intentional retirement decisions. Now, sure, 58 might not seem dramatically early compared to the average retirement age of 62, but here's the kicker. Most retirement calculators still assume that you'll work until age 66 or 67. That's nearly a decade of difference. And in my experience, working with hundreds of clients, retiring in your late 50s is not just a dream. For many middle and upper middle class Americans, it's entirely within reach if you start planning early and understand what it actually takes. Because early retirement is not just about how much you've saved, it's about how you use those savings, turning them into sustainable income, managing risk, and bridging the years before traditional retirement benefits kick in. So what does that actually look like? Let's start with some numbers. A common rule of thumb is the 4% rule, also known as the rule of 25. It says that you need to save 25 times your desired annual income in order to retire. For example, if you need, let's say, $50,000 a year from your portfolio, you would need around $1.25 million saved. Now, before you close this video thinking, well, that's not happening, let me pause you here for a second. The 4% rule is just a starting point. It's simple, but it's also outdated and overly conservative. Modern retirement income frameworks like the guardrail strategy often support a starting withdrawal rate closer to 5.5%. That means you might only need around $900,000 to generate that same $50,000 per year. And that's before accounting for things like Social Security, pensions, annuities, or rental income sources that can dramatically reduce the burden on your portfolio. Now, maybe you're thinking, sure, Taylor, that all sounds great, but the average retirement savings for people in their late 50s is only around $500,000. That's true, but averages are misleading. They include everyone, those who started late, those who never had a plan, or those who faced major setbacks. The people retiring at 58 are not lottery winners or trust fund babies, but they also are not average. And the fact that you're watching this right now tells me that you probably are not average either. You're learning, you're planning, and that alone sets you apart. In fact, research consistently shows that higher financial knowledge leads to higher savings. So no, average savings will not cut it, and neither will average planning. If you want to retire on your terms, especially in your 50s, you need a strategic, intentional plan and often some professional guidance. And here's the truth. Even with a healthy nest egg, money alone is not enough. Because retiring early comes with a unique set of challenges that require more than just math to navigate. And if you're not prepared, they can unravel your plan fast. I call them the triple threat of early retirement. Number 1, early withdrawal penalties. Number 2, delayed Social Security. And number 3, healthcare costs. Let's go ahead and break each of those down. First, early withdrawals. Most pre-tax retirement accounts, like traditional IRAs, penalize you for taking money out before age 59 and a half. That creates a 1.5-year gap where you'll either need to tap other assets or pay a 10% early withdrawal penalty. But there's a workaround, the rule of 55. If you retire from your job in the year you turn 55 or later, you can withdraw from your 401k without penalty. Not your IRA, just your 401k. So if early retirement is on your radar, you might consider consolidating more of your pre-tax savings into your company's 401k before you leave. The second threat, delayed Social Security. You can't claim benefits until age 62 at the earliest, which creates a 4-year income gap if you retire at age 58. And just because you can claim at 62 doesn't necessarily mean that you should. In fact, doing so could reduce your monthly benefit by up to 30% compared to waiting until full retirement age. And third, healthcare. Medicare does not begin until age 65. If you retire at 58, that's 7 full years of bridging the gap with private insurance. And it's not cheap. A couple could easily pay $1,000 to $2,000 per month in premiums, depending on income and coverage level. This is where smart, proactive planning makes a huge difference. Thanks to the Affordable Care Act, income-based subsidies could reduce your healthcare premiums dramatically, but they hinge on keeping your taxable income low. One big Roth conversion or asset sale could wipe them out for the year. These challenges are not deal breakers. In fact, they're what make retiring at 58 such a powerful planning window. Retiring at 58 gives you something that most retirees don't have: time. Time to optimize your Social Security claiming strategy. Time to stay in lower tax brackets to execute Roth conversions at favorable rates. Time to front-load travel, fitness, and adventure while you're still young and healthy enough to enjoy them. You're not just surviving the gap years, you're using them to build a more efficient, tax-smart retirement. But none of this happens by accident. Successfully retiring at 58 requires intentional, strategic planning to navigate these challenges and stay in control, especially during the years before Medicare and Social Security kick in. Let's start with healthcare because it's often underestimated. Before 65, you'll need to budget for private insurance, potentially $24,000 a year for a couple. Options like COBRA, ACA plans, or even coverage from part-time work should be evaluated side by side. And as I mentioned earlier, ACA subsidies can ease the burden, but only if you manage your taxable income carefully. Then there's the income gap. You might have 1.5 to 4 years or more where you cannot rely on IRA withdrawals or Social Security. So where does that income come from? Well, it could be taxable brokerage accounts, part-time consulting, rental income, structured portfolio withdrawals that minimize taxes. And while not ideal, even Roth IRAs can serve as a backup. These aren't just financial levers. They're tools that give you flexibility and control during your early retirement years. And of course, don't overlook your investment allocation. A 58-year-old retiree could be planning for 30 to 40 years of portfolio longevity. That demands enough growth to combat inflation and enough stability to avoid panic selling during downturns. For many early retirees, a more growth-oriented portfolio may feel riskier, but could be essential for long-term sustainability. Retiring at 58 is not only a financial calculation, it's a life decision. But that doesn't mean that you can ignore the math. In fact, financial clarity is a crucial first step in figuring out if you are truly ready. The 4% rule or guardrail strategy that we discussed earlier are helpful starting points, but you need a full picture of your income: Social Security, pensions, investment returns, part-time work. You also need to stress test your plan. You can do this by running 3 scenarios: a best case, an expected case, and a worst case. In the worst case scenario, you might model the market crashing in year 1 of retirement, or lower than expected investment returns for an extended period of time, or a health event derailing your spending plan. Then, determine how you would respond to ensure that your plan doesn't break. Would you reduce spending? If so, how? Would you downsize your home or shift your withdrawal strategy? Crisis planning should not happen during the crisis. Anticipating these roadblocks now puts you in control when it matters most. And remember, financial readiness is only half the equation. So ask yourself, am I retiring from something or to something? Do I have purpose, structure, and adventure planned? Does work still energize me, or am I just hanging on? I've seen people with millions saved feel lost and unfulfilled within months of retiring. They weren't missing income, they were missing intention. If you've decided that 58 might be your retirement age, here's how to turn that vision into reality. Step 1, run the numbers based on your lifestyle goals, not just the averages. Get clear on your anticipated expenses. Build in a healthy margin for inflation. And don't forget to budget for extra discretionary spending during the early go-go years of retirement. Step 2, compare that number to your actual portfolio. If you're behind, you have options. Increase your savings rate, adjust your lifestyle expectations, or push your retirement date back slightly. Remember, there's no shame in retiring at 60 or 62 if that's what makes the math work. Step 3, maximize every financial lever in your final working years. That means making catch-up contributions to your 401k and IRAs, using a health savings account if you're eligible. It's triple tax advantaged, ensuring that you get the full employer match on any retirement plan. Step number 4, build multiple income streams for those bridge years, those early years before Social Security and Medicare kick in. The more sources you have, the more flexibility you gain. Think rental income, dividends, consulting work, or even passion projects that generate modest revenue. And finally, stress test your plan annually. Revisit your projections, update your expenses, and evaluate whether your income sources are holding up. Flexibility is your friend. The goal is not perfection. It's progress and resilience. Retiring at 58 does not happen by accident, but with clear targets, consistent savings, and intentional planning, it can absolutely happen by design. And if you want professional help building a custom retirement strategy, click the link in the description. My award-winning team will show you with real numbers how close you might already be to retiring on your terms.